Hi, I'm Matt Ambrose with the Defense Acquisition University, and this is part 2 of a simple example on earned value management. Now in the first part, let's just go ahead and go back to day 3 here. We found that Bubba was doing very well on cost and schedule, had positive cost and schedule variance, also was very efficient for the indices as well. But let's see how he's doing on day 7, because we need to track the contractor continually throughout the program to see if there are any problems that come up. So we're going to go to day 7 here. And on day 7, what would be the plan? At the end of day 7, how many dollars worth of ditch has Bubba planned to get dug? In this case, simple example, $70. Then we got to know what's actually been performed. What's the earned value or budgeted cost of work performed, as we went over in the first video. So 80 meters of ditch have been dug at the end of day 7. How many dollars worth of work does that equate to? In our case, the earned value here is now $80. And then I asked Bubba, how much has Bubba paid at the end of day 7 to get all this work done? And he said, well, had some problems. My labor asked for more money, busted a pick. He's up to $90 in cost at this point. And again, this is a figure that the contractor is going to report to you. You already know the plan. They're going to report to you how much work has been done and how much money has been paid to get that work done. And then we can start doing our calculations. Already got the numbers here for schedule variance. We're going to subtract the plan from what's actually been done. So in this case, that's 80 minus 70. So that's a positive $10 in schedule variance. That's a good thing, right? Means that Bubba is 10 meters or $10 worth of work ahead of schedule. Again, makes sense. We're at day 7, he's supposed to be at 70, he's actually dug 80. Good stuff, right? Let's take a look at cost. Might tell a little bit different story here. Again, we're going to take the earned value and we're going to subtract what was paid to get that work done. And that's going to come out to something a little different here. Now we've got a negative $10 or a negative cost variance, which is a bad thing. On your gold card, tells you negative variances are unfavorable. Okay, this means in terms of budget, what's unfavorable? A negative cost variance actually means you're over budget. Not under budget, but over budget. Negative cost variance, bad thing, over budget. Okay, so now we know that our contractor here, Bubba, is $10 ahead in terms of schedule, but is over budget by $10. So not good in terms of cost, but good in terms of schedule. Could this happen? Absolutely. Let's look at our indices now in terms of efficiency. And again, we use the same terms, but now we're going to divide. So if you run the numbers there, through your calculator, you're going to get a 1.14. So in terms of efficiency on schedule, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Remember, we always compare to 1.0 as being the plan. Okay, so if he's right on plan, it would be 1.0, but because he's above 1, that means he's actually more efficient than we would have expected. So Bubba's real efficient on schedule here with an SPI of 1.14, getting about 14% more work done than we would have expected at this point if he'd been right on plan. Okay, let's take a look at the efficiency on cost now, because we knew that we had a negative cost variance. Would you expect that to be over 1 or under 1? Think about that while we run the numbers. Okay, when we run that number there, it's 0.89. So it's under 1. That's telling you that Bubba is not very efficient on schedule, and specifically cost, and specifically that he's only getting really 89 cents worth of work done for every dollar that he's spent so far. Not so good at this point. And again, that certainly could happen. You could have a contractor that was very efficient on schedule, but is paying more money for that work than they really should be according to their budget. Okay, so right now, that's what we know. Let's take a look at another figure that will help us look and see maybe how things are going to end up a little bit. So now we can do a few more calculations to see where we might end up at the end of the program. And these are your percents. So look at your gold card and find where those calculations are for the different percents. Percent scheduled, percent complete, percent spent. For percent scheduled, what you do is you take the budgeted cost of work scheduled and you divide it by, in our case, the budget, which is 100, and then you multiply by 100. You can see just kind of simply here, because our example is so simple, you're going to end up at 70%. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that without doing tons of calculations here, because it's fairly obvious here, only because our example is so simple. Okay, so 70%. Now how about percent spent? Here we're going to take the actual cost of work performed, in this case $90, and we're going to divide again by our budget at completion, 100, and then we're going to multiply by 100. Do the math there, fairly easy, and you get to 90%. Now by themselves, these two numbers don't really tell you a whole lot. They could be good, they could be bad. You don't know until you know the earned value. Again, that key term in earned value management is how much work has actually been done. In this case, what's the percent of work that's been accomplished? Okay, so the percent complete is what that's called. So how much work is complete at this point? In this case, we're going to take our earned value of $80, we're going to divide that by our budget, 100, and then we're going to multiply by 100. And again, in a simple example, because we're going to 100 here, you see that we got 80% of the work complete. So now we have the figures that we need to do a useful comparison. And you really always compare to percent complete. And I actually tell my students, write that on your gold card. Always compare to percent complete, because that is the earned value, and that is the key thing that you always want to compare against when you're doing percents. This comparison here really will tell you a false story, because you don't really know if those are good or bad unless you know how much work has actually been done. In the case of our schedule, 70% was scheduled to be done. That's the plan at this point. 80% of the work is complete. We're good, right? 10% ahead in terms of the overall program of the schedule that we would have expected. In terms of cost, we're not looking so good. If you look here and you see the percent complete is 80, but we've spent 90% of the budget, or Bubba has, you can see that things aren't looking so good there. We spent more money than work that's actually been performed. And if you look at how this is going to end up at the end of the program, this is where you can get a snapshot and say, hey, am I going to need more money for this thing, or am I going to have to tell Bubba to stop working at some point? So here we look at this and we see Bubba's got 20% or 20 meters of ditch left to do. Only 10% of the budget is left, only $10. He spent 90 bucks and he's only got $10 left, or 10% of the budget. You need probably to come up with some more money if you're going to finish this project. If you can, the good news is, I guess, if there is good news in here, is that Bubba's probably going to finish it early. Could finish a day, maybe more, early on the project, which could be a good thing in a way. But given that he's going to bust his budget, you're going to probably need some more money. So you see how this gets to be a real powerful tool for the program manager to see how the contractor is performing. And when you put this together with things like technical performance measurements, instead of just a two-dimensional view of cost and schedule, you can see a three-dimensional view at different snapshots in time of how your program is doing. So in this case, for a technical performance measure, we might want to look at the depth of the ditch. Is the depth of the ditch what it's supposed to be as we're going along here, that kind of thing. Then we can see how Bubba's doing in terms of cost, performance, and schedule. Good program manager is going to put all of those things together in order to get a good view of the program on a regular basis. That way we can track against the plan and figure out if something's going wrong. So it's a great risk management tool. You can see if things are going awry on your program, and then right away you can talk to the contractor and say, hey, what's going on here? Let's see what we might be able to do to get things back on track, or what's your plan in order to get things back on track. In this case, I'd be asking Bubba, hey, what's your plan to get these last 20 meters worth of ditch dug for only $10? Can you even do that? Or do we need more money? So that's a step a little bit further than we did in part one. Hope you enjoyed that. Thank you for listening, and do check out those continuous learning modules and other courses that you can take on earned value management. Thanks for listening.